Hey guys, I have a video here for you today. This might be one of the last Yu-Gi-Oh videos that I post in a while, but as I'm sure you can tell, this is related to Gishkill, and anyone with a brain knows that Gishkill is pretty much the most awesome deck ever, but some people, some less knowledgeable people would disagree, and they don't like it. They say it's silly and it takes forever to win. And specifically, the issue is that it can take as long as 40 minutes to win one game, and it's perfectly legal to take that long because there is no repeatable loop. It's different in various points of the game. So that's kind of the issue the player can take, as long as they want, assuming they're playing at a reasonable pace, which I know always do. It'll take very long for them to win the game, which has kind of caused an issue. It can make tournaments run much longer than they're intended to. So today I worked on creating some sort of loop that you could demonstrate, and rather than taking 40 minutes to win, you could, do a cycle of actions and just say, okay, I want to repeat these actions 20 more times. You deck out, game over. And there are a few ways to do that. The only problem is that generally, if you do go for some sort of repeatable loop to make things go faster, it's less efficient in the sense that generally the idea is that while you're playing the deck, you try to build up your hand size. That way, if you get Veiled or something, you won't just lose on the spot. You'll have plenty more gas to continue going off. So what I tried to do is was I wanted to make a repeatable loop that I could simply demonstrate and say, okay, I win now, right? But that would also build up my hand size. So, say midway through the loop they draw a Veiler, I wouldn't just lose on the spot because I was lazy. So it took me about an hour and 30 minutes or so of figuring it out. It was mostly just taking notes as I was playing through and trying to figure out a way to, get from point A to point B, but then back from point B to point A while having extra cards in hand so I could, repeat this loop. So I'm going to show you guys that today, but before I do, I have something special, and some of my more avid followers, they recall that when I created the Future Fusion FTK, I did something very significant, and that was that I publicly endorsed Little Caesars Pizza for having a good calories to dollar ratio. And today I'd like to talk about Capri Sun. Here I have a Capri Sun lemonade. I'd like to give a shout out to them. The main reason I like it is that they don't screw around. It's like 3% juice. The second ingredient is sugar, and the sixth ingredient is flavoring. So, oh man, hold on. Getting this. The only downside is getting them open is no easy task by any means. They should likely improve upon their design. But flavor-wise, it's very good. I always say that, Capri Sun doesn't have flavors, it just has colors. That's true. Just, all tastes like a, sugary water, which might not sound that great, but it's very good sugary water, in my opinion. So anyways, as I show you the sloop, I'm going to drink Capri Sun. I was not paid for this endorsement, by the way. I genuinely do like Capri Sun. But anyways, so here's our setup here. We have a Mind Augus in play that has its effect activated, and our hand contains a draw 2. Now, to start here, it doesn't have to be a Trade-In Soul Ogre. It can be 2 upstarts, or hand destruction, 2 random cards, or upstart Into the Void, or upstart 1 day apiece, or, whatever you want. And over here we have our graveyard. It's sorted out. These that stack over there, these are all the cards we're not going to use. And the hand destruction, salvage, trade, and that's part of our loop. And then our rituals and our shadows are also part of our loop. So we have 0 deck here, and we've resolved Mind Augus's effect. It's very easy to get into this position. This is not a corner case by any means. So I am reading off of notes here. So the first pile is going to be Trade-In and Salvage. So this becomes our deck, Trade-In Salvage. Then we go over to our hand. We trade in our Soul Ogre. Our hands, Trade-In Salvage. We activate the Salvage. Salvage goes over there, back on our grave. We add 2 Gishki Shadow to our hand. And then the way this interaction works here is that Soul Ogre goes to our hand. Aquamirror goes to our deck. And then we pitch Shadow and add Aquamirror to our hand. So that Shadow effectively added the monster and the spell. So in the future I'm just going to do a shortcut directly to that, just for the quickness of play. So we're going to pitch the second Shadow, get an Aquamirror and a Mind Augus, and then now we go tribute this Mind Augus, play another Mind Augus, and you'll see that we're in the exact same position that we were in before, except we have an Aquamirror. Before we just had Trade-In Soul Ogre with a Mind Augus activation on the chain. Now you have the same thing except you have an Aquamirror. So we are technically ahead here. Now when we resolve this Mind Augus, rather than do Trade-In Salvage, we're going to do Hand Destruction Salvage. Order of our deck doesn't matter again, we're just going to draw both. And then, as I'm sure you imagine, we trade in this Soul Ogre again. And then we draw 2. And then we salvage for 2 shadows. We pitch both shadows, get 2 Aquamirrors, and Mind Augus Soul Ogre. So that's our hand now, it's 6 cards. We're going to activate Aquamirror, sack our Mind Augus, play another one, activate its effect, and now you'll see we're in the same position that we were in before, except instead of having the Trade-In Soul Ogre, we have Hand Destruction Soul Ogre, and that's because we need a way to pitch these 2 Aquamirrors. That's why this is a Hand Destruction, not a Trade-In. So now here's where things get a little tricky. We're going to activate our Mind Augus's effect, and rather than piling 2, we're going to pile back 4. It does need to be an even number because we're always drawing in even numbers. And we're going to do 3 Trade-In and a Salvage. So when we draw 2 with this Hand Destruction, you'll know that we have to hit one of the Trade-Ins. Either we get a Salvage and a Trade-In, or just 2 Trade-Ins. It's not going to matter either way. Sorry for the brief interruption. The dogs were going crazy because my sister just got home. Now would be a good time for a Capri Sun break. So anyways, our Mind Augus piles back. 3 Trade-Ins and a Salvage. We're going to Hand Destruction our 2 Aquamirrors, and there is a guaranteed chance that we draw one of these 3 Trade-Ins. The second card will either be another Trade-In or a Salvage. So we'll say we just drew 2 Trade-Ins because it doesn't matter. We then trade in our Soul Ogre, and we draw another 2. So our hand is just Trade-In, Salvage. We're going to activate Salvage, get back 2 Shadow. The 2 Shadows get us 2 Aquamirror and 2 Ritual. So that Salvage is going to net us this here. And then now we're going to go Aquamirror, tribute this Mind Augus, play another Mind Augus, and activate the effect. our hand is now Trade-In Soul Ogre Aquamirror. So you'll see this looks very similar to one of our earlier hands, except at the start we had a Trade-In and a Soul Ogre. Now we've netted an Aquamirror and another copy of Trade-In. So we're certainly getting ahead. We're going to use the effect, and we're going to do another pile of 4. It's going to be 3 Salvage and 1 hand instruction. So off this Trade-In, we're guaranteed to get at least 1 copy of Salvage. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to trade in our Soul Ogre. Get at least 1 copy of Salvage. We'll say we got 2. It doesn't matter. It can be a hand destruction. So now we're going to activate our Salvage. Get back 2 Shadow. We're going to pitch both shadows, get back Aquamirror, so now we have all 3, and a Mind Augus and a Soul Ogre, and so now this is what our hand looks like. 3 Aquamirror, Salvage, Trade-In, and 2 Rituals, and then now we're going to trade in our Soul Ogre and draw the last 2 cards in our deck, which will be a 2nd copy of Salvage and a hand destruction. So now this is our hand. So now here, we're just going to go ahead and salvage for 2 shadows, but we can't use them yet because all of our Aquamirrors are in our hand. And we'll go Aquamirror, tribute our Mind Augus, play another Mind Augus, and we're going to use the effect. Our hand with this on the chain is now Aquamirror, Shadow, Salvage, hand destruction, and of course the Mind Augus activation. So now we're just going to do a pile of 2 again, since we can only draw 2 for now. And that pile of 2 is just going to be hand destruction and Trade-In. Pretty straightforward. So now we're going to activate our hand destruction, pitching our 2 Aquamirrors, and draw 2 cards. So now this is the game state. 5 cards in hand, Augus, and all these. So now we are going to go ahead and use our 2 shadows, get Soul Ogre, Mind Augus, and 2 Aquamirrors. We're going to activate Salvage, get back 2 of our shadows. We can use 1 right now, so we're going to go ahead and do it, save the other one for later. And our hand is now all 3 Rituals, all 3 Aquamirrors, an extra shadow, a hand destruction, and a Trade-In. Okay, so now we are we're pretty much at the point where we're going to begin the loop that nets us extra cards. So we are going to activate Aquamirror, tribute this Mind Augus, play another one, and now this is the point that you need to remember. Keep in mind our hand is 2 Soul Ogres, 2 Aquamirrors, the extra shadow, a hand destruction, and a Trade-In. That right there. And this is going to be the beginning of our loops. This is going to be the part that we try to get back to, except with some sort of extra resources. So that way we are having a loop that decks our opponent out and that nets us resources, so we don't just like lose on the spot to a Veiler or something. So with that in mind, the loop is only 3 steps, I believe. Yeah, 3 piles between now and when we get back to the loop. So it's a 3-step loop. So now what we do is we're going to put back a hand destruction, a Trade-In, a Salvage, and some other card. The other card can literally be anything. We're never going to use it. It's just for the purposes of demonstrating that this loop can net us extra cards. So just to prove that the other card can literally be anything, I'm going to use a Brian Kibler token. So our 4-card deck is Hand Destruction, Trade-In, Salvage, and Brian Kibler. So now to draw the 4 cards in our deck, we're going to use Hand Destruction, pitching 2 Aquamirrors, and Trade-In, pitching Soul Ogre. See, we draw 4 cards, and we're going to do so. We're going to draw our 3 cards and our Brian Kibler token. So now we can go ahead, use our shadow to add a Mind Augus and a Soul Ogre, use our Salvage, get back 2 shadows, then use one of our shadows again, get back Aquamirror and Soul Ogre, and then now that we're going to do that, we're going to Ritual Summon, tribute our Mind Augus, put another Mind Augus into play, and use the effect. So now our hand with the Mind Augus activation on the chain is Soul Ogre, Aquamirror, Shadow, Hand Destruction, Trade-In, and Token, which is just according to my notes. We're still on track. And now our pile is going to be 2 Trade-Ins, a Salvage, and any card. A card just to demonstrate that we are in fact gaining cards. So to represent that, we're going to use a Brad Nelson token. So that's our deck. Trade-In, Salvage, Brad Nelson. Brad Nelson's a very good Magic player, by the way. He's actually way better than Brian Kibler. It's like not even close. Okay, so to continue, now that we have one of our rituals in the grave again, I'll go ahead and pitch Shadow, add back our Mind Augus, and add back our Aquamirror. So now we have 2 Aquamirrors to pitch to Hand Destruction again. So we are going to do so. Hand Destruction, pitch Aquamirror, and Trade-In, pitch Soul Ogre. So we're throwing all these away and drawing 4 cards. 2 Trade-Ins, Salvage, and a Brad Nelson token to go along with our Brian Kibler token. Let's put everything away. And then now we are almost back at the start of the loop, believe it or not. So we are going to activate our Salvage, get back 2 shadows. We are going to pitch the one that we can, add back Soul Ogre, add back Aquamirror, and then now we're going to play our Mind Augus, the last Mind Augus that you're going to see here. We're going to activate the effect, and our last pile looks a little weird. It's going to be all of these, Hand Destruction, Trade-In, Salvage, but instead of a token this time, we're going to put back a Gishki Shadow. And that's just so we get back from point B to point A in the least number of steps.
Cool story, bro.
So there's our deck. And we just have 2 Trade-Ins and 2 Soul Ogres. So we are going to cash those in.
You must go to some pretty warm parties.
So there go our Soul Ogres. There go our Trade-Ins. And here come all these guys. So, we're going to pitch both our shadows. get our 2 Soul Ogres and our 2 Aquamirrors back to our hand. We're going to salvage for 2 shadows. We're going to activate just one of them because that's all we can activate. And we're going to get back Mind Augus and Aquamirror. So, now the last step to get back to point A is to simply go Ritual Summon, sacking our Mind Augus, putting another Mind Augus into play. And originally you'll recall that our point A was Soul Ogre times 2, Aquamirror times 2, Shadow, Hand Destruction, Trade-In with a Mind Augus activation on the chain. And now you'll look and notice we have 2 Soul Ogres, 2 Aquamirrors, a Shadow, a Hand Destruction, a Trade-In, just like before, but look, we have 2 tokens. So we began the loop, got back to the same place that we started from, except we have 2 cards that can literally be anything at all. They can be 2 upstarts. They can be an extra salvage. They can be whatever you want. So now that we've gotten back to this point, we'd say to our opponent, okay, I've demonstrated the loop once. Now I'm going to repeat this loop, X times. During the loop, we make our opponent draw 6 and discard 6. So one iteration of this loop will let our opponent draw 6 and let us add any 2 cards from our graveyard that we want back to our hand. So to end, I'm going to leave this as a challenge. This was the first loop that I was able to make up a repeatable, demonstratable loop that nets cards in our hand. So my question to you guys is, can you make a better one? This one lets our opponent draw 6 and nets us 2 cards. So if you can come up with one that also nets 2 cards but only lets your opponent draw 4, then it would be more efficient because, just for obvious reasons, that we're gaining cards at a greater velocity relative to this loop. So I hope you enjoyed the loop, and I hope you judges out there enjoy knowing that you can now force the Gishki players in your event to declare a repeatable loop, because it is possible. It's not overly difficult. It can be fairly hard. But hopefully this will, at a minimum, start some interesting discussion. So that's all for today. If you have a better version of this particular loop, feel free to post it as a video response.